All right, guys, so today in front of me from Bardstown Bourbon Company, we have their Fusion Series number 9, which is thought to be the last release of the Fusion Series. Bardstown Bourbon Company will be releasing a new series here in the very near future using their own distillate. Definitely excited to get into this one, guys. So without further ado, let's go. All right, guys, so the whole point behind the Fusion Series was being able to blend and incorporate younger whiskey into some much older whiskey, giving it a completely different profile. That was really the whole point behind the Fusion Series. And as you can see with some of these later releases, Bardstown Bourbon Company's own young distillate, around 4 years old, was incorporated into these last couple batches with some much older whiskey. Let me go ahead and give you a breakdown of what's inside this Fusion Series. So it starts with a 48% of a 4-year-old Bardstown Bourbon Company distillate. It's 75% corn, 21% rye, 4% malted barley. Followed up by 22% of a 4-year Bardstown Bourbon Company distillate. 60% corn, 26% rye, 10% wheat, and 4% malted barley. And finally, 30% of a 12-year whiskey. 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley. Let's go ahead and get into the nose on this one. Yeah, so on the nose, it comes off very fruit forward. I don't necessarily get like any kind of youthful, a lot of youthful grains. You do pick up like a little bit of corn influence in there. Again, the corn is a very high percentage on all three of these blends, so you get like a little bit of a sweet corn there. But I feel like some of the fruits, definitely fruit dominant nose. Some pear, some apricot, kind of cover that youthfulness up a little bit. It almost reminds me of maybe like a wine finish or something that like maybe like a white grape. It kind of has that vibe to it. I get a little bit of vanilla in there. Not a ton of caramel sweetness to this one. I do pick up like a sweet oak and some of that sweet vanilla further into the glass. And then further away is really where you start to pick up some of those fruity notes. A little hint of that sweet corn. But definitely some pear influence. Some apricot in there, and again, further into the glass is like a really nice sweet vanilla and a sweet oak that is present. Let's go and get into the palate, guys. Cheers. So on the palate, it is very similar to that of the nose. There is, again, some nice kind of vanilla sweetness up at the front, and then as soon as that vanilla sweetness kind of stops, some of those fruits start to appear there. Again, some of that pear, some of that apricot. And then again, like on the nose, there's like this white wine kind of influence to it, like a white grape. Not even necessarily, maybe almost like along the lines of like a Zinfandel or something like that. Just very, very kind of like grapey, apricot, some pear. Finish doesn't linger on as long as I hoped it would. It's got a decent finish on it. I'd say it's short to medium, maybe a little bit more on the short side. Decent viscosity to it. The fruity notes, though, I mean, the flavor profile, the fruits that kind of pack that punch, kind of make up that short finish. But again, I do look for a much longer finish in some of these. This one just doesn't give it to me. Again, a lot of really nice fruit notes, some like white wine notes, a little bit of grape, some sweet vanilla. I'm not picking up a lot of caramel on the palate on that first sip at all, really. It's like it's non-existent on the nose, and then really non-existent on the palate as well. Let's get a second sip. Yeah, I mean, it's very sweet. I just picked up some citrus there on the sides of the palate. Some lemon. That pear and apricot kind of mingling with that lemon on the mid palate. Sweet vanilla up on the front. Not getting a lot of sweet oak on the palate. I did get it on the nose, but right there at the mid to back palate, I do pick up a little bit of some sweet corn before it goes into the finish. Slight peppery finish on the back. And then, yeah, I mean, the viscosity, it's a medium viscosity, not too drying and not overly oily. And again, the finish just kind of dies off there fairly quick. Again, short to medium finish, more on the shorter side. The citrus notes and those fruity notes are definitely there. I didn't get as much of that white wine influence on that second sip as I did the first. But there is still like a slight hint of grapiness. A lot of the activity on the palate on this one is right on the mid palate, and into the back of the palate, not in like through the finish. Front of the palate again, just a little bit of that like vanilla sweetness. Not a lot of caramel at all. No oak. But that, mid to the back palate is where you're getting some of that citrus. You're getting that apricot. You're getting that some pear, some like white wine influence, like a grape. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Again, the whole thing behind the Fusion series is being able to blend some younger whiskey into some of the older whiskey, and this is some of Bardstown Bourbon Company's own distillate. Some of their two different blends that are their 4 years old. So you're gonna get some of those youthful notes in there. I'm surprised I'm not getting as many youthful notes as I am. I think, that 12-year-old whiskey that's in here, I think kind of covers that up, kind of masks it a little bit. Still a really nice sipper though. I think I like this one better than I liked the Fusion 8. I think this one has a little bit more to offer on the palate as far as tasting notes. But some of the prior Fusion series, not so sure. Not so sure this one lives up to it. Let's get a last sip, guys. Cheers. So that last sip was changed a little bit. I got a little bit more of like a baking spice on that one. A little bit of rye starts to come through on the center of the palate. Some of that fruitiness starts to die down a little bit. More of the citrus kind of died down after that second sip. Still getting that pear, that white grape, sweet vanilla on the front, but then in the back of the palate there, some more of that like black pepper and some baking spices, maybe a little bit of nutmeg there started to appear more on this sip than the last two. So this is something maybe, as it opens up, maybe it'll get a little bit better. Again, mouthfeel is still about the same, like a medium viscosity. Finish still just on the shorter side of things. But again, I mean, nice fruity notes to this one. That white wine influence on this one is definitely different from the 8. A little bit of corn influence there, kind of after everything settles and goes away. A little bit of corn influence there on the mid to back palate before it goes into the finish. Regardless, though, I think this is for it being the final Fusion, it's not a bad blend at all. I do think, however, I favor the 8 more than I do the 9. But the only true way to do that would be a blind. So that is something I'll be looking to set up here later on. But either way, great blend here, guys, by Bardstown Bourbon Company. All right, guys, so I want to thank you for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews, and I want to send a big thank you over to the team at Bardstown Bourbon Company for supplying me with the sample here to review on the channel. Again, a lot of nice fruity flavors on this one. A little bit of that youth does appear on the nose and on the palate. But still, I think that 12-year-old whiskey, that Kentucky whiskey that's in here, did a pretty good job of masking more of those youthful notes. And again, that was really the thought process behind this Fusion series. It is nice to see that, Bardstown has two of their, younger distillates inside of here blend in with that 12-year-old whiskey, which is thought to be Beam. I didn't really pick up a lot of Beam notes if that's the case. Again, it's, they didn't say, where that Kentucky whiskey was from, but it is 12 years old. Mash bill, kind of suspect, but regardless, the way that they blend things over at Bardstown Bourbon Company is top notch. Again, great great profile on this one. Wish it had a little bit more of a finish. I do, however, feel like I favor the 8 more than the 9. But again, we'll be setting up that blind here, maybe a little bit down the road. But again, great blend by Bardstown Bourbon Company, guys. So if you're looking for more reviews like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You can also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And until next time, guys, stay dusty.